Interestingly, a lot of people don't know this, our tax code in America is more progressive than Scandinavia. So you've heard some of the clamor for socialism, and they want Swedish socialism. Well, we have higher taxes on the wealthy here than they do in Sweden. In fact, in Sweden and Denmark, it's kind of the opposite, actually. The middle class and the poor are more heavily taxed than in our country. So when you look and you hear people say, well, Sweden and Denmark, why don't we become Denmark? Let's give everybody paid leave, free paid leave. Let's give the uncle of the baby free paid leave. Let's give everybody, the grandparents need paid leave. It's all going to be free. Well, guess what? They do stuff like that in Scandinavia, but everybody pays a 25% sales tax. It's not free. Everybody pays a 25% sales tax in Scandinavia. In addition, the income tax in Denmark, and many of the other countries are similar, is 60% at $60,000. You want to buy a car in Scandinavia? You wonder why these people are freezing, riding their bike all winter long? It's a 200% tax to buy a car. So if you want to buy a $30,000 car, you've got to have $60,000 up front to pay the government, and then you need another $30,000 to buy the car. It's not free. There's no free lunch. When people say that government can provide you all these things, they can only do it by either taxing you or borrowing. Right now, we're doing it mostly through borrowing. The other thing we've done is, and the reason why I think it's destined probably to get worse over time, is we've gradually taken people off the tax rolls. So really, below $50,000, there's a very minimal amount of income tax being paid. In fact, those who are the top 10% pay almost all of the income tax in our country. So people say, we need to stick it to the rich aren't paying their fair share. Well, guess what? The top 10% pay 87% of the income tax. Almost all of the income tax is paid by the top 10%. If you go to the top 50%, that's $75,000 and above, it's like well over 90%. It's like 96 or 97% of the income tax is paid for by people who make $75,000 and above. So some have been clamoring. There's the young socialist on the other side. She says, we need a special tax on the rich, on those who make $10 million a year. And you've heard this. And even Republicans are saying, well, yeah, let's stick it to the rich. Let's get those really filthy rich people. Let's say you do it. 70% tax on those who make $10 million. Well, let's do the math. What does it bring in? Let's say they all continue to work, and let's say they all pay their taxes and don't move to another country. It brings in $50 billion. Sounds like a lot of money. Well, how much would Medicare for all cost? $60 trillion. All right. The tax brings in $50 billion. The spending proposal just for Medicare for all, $60 trillion. The Green New Deal, add another $10 trillion. Their spending proposals are so big, no one can even define them within a few $1 trillion because they're so enormous. And realize what I said before, the deficit is driven by what you already have. You've got Medicare for senior citizens. It's $35 trillion short. If you were $35 trillion short, does it make sense to now expand Medicare to everyone? So what we have is Medicare for some, Medicare for senior citizens, $35 trillion short, and they want to expand it to everybody? Also realize they want to ban insurance. There'll be no insurance companies and no insurance through your employer. Right now, there's 180 million people who have health insurance. You think it's going to be just, a real pleasant transition to having everybody on the government insurance? And where's the money going to come from? These proposals are ludicrous on their face. We face mounting debt and deficits from what we have. This should be a no-brainer. These people should be laughed out of polite society. No one who is intellectually honest should listen to these people. There's really no reason for them to even be in the discourse because they are so completely out of touch with reality. We have so much debt from what we're already trying to give you through Medicare and Social Security. And these people want to double, triple, and quadruple that. It doesn't work. It's a recipe for disaster. And as you look around the world, as people get more and more debt and more spending, look what happens. Look what happens as we approach socialism around the world. If you look at the examples of socialism from the last century, it's a history of famine and genocide. Stalin, Hitler, Mao, Pol Pot, Castro, Chavez, Maduro. It doesn't work.